What's going on, guys? It's Fantasy Stock Exchange here, and today we're going to be bringing forth the next episode of the Dynasty Decision series we do over here at the Fantasy Stock Exchange YouTube channel. As it is, common occurrence here. We love this series. We love the viewer feedback, the viewer support you guys show, and as a result, we love talking about your teams and helping you make that next step towards dominating your Dynasty leagues. But before we get into that, as always, Corey, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Long weekend coming up here in Canada. I'm not even sure if you guys have a long weekend in the United States. You can
May
comment that
2-4.
down below. We're recording this on Friday. It'll come out Sunday. So I'm away all weekend. I believe you're doing shit all weekend too. But
Yep.
basically today, you guys know we cover your dynasty questions, dynasty trade questions, rookie draft questions, rebuilding, contending type of questions. If you guys want to be on future episodes of Dynasty Decisions, all you have to do is sign up, number one, on Patreon. That is the fastest way to get your question answered because you skip the line that way. Or we can add you to the queue via Twitter questions, Discord questions, all that kind of stuff. And the links for all those things are down below in the description. So I'm doing good. Like, comment, subscribe if you guys enjoy. Now let's hit the intro. All right, let's kick it off with AJ Liner's team. He is a member of the Patreon as well. 10-team Superflex PPR. Starting roster is, pretty basic: 3 wide receiver, 2 flex, all that kind of stuff. This is the team: Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins as his main quarterbacks, Mac Jones, Davis Mills, Jameis Winston on the bench, Najee Harris, Antonio Gibson, David Montgomery, Hunt, Algier, etc. Mike Evans, Juju, Adam Thielen, Treylon Burks, Devontae Smith, Darnell Mooney, Christian Watson, TJ Hawkinson as his main tight end. Also has 2 ones next year, and then all of his picks by the looks of it for the most part. He has a couple potential trades, but I'll let you kind of get into his main questions here.
For sure. So he mentions here that he's currently deciding whether to rebuild or try and compete this year. And as you guys can see on the screen, he's contemplating these 2 offers that he has involving Jameis Winston. Basically just says, keep doing it, keep killing it with the content. And we'll help you out here, AJ, in terms of these questions. So, looking at the strength of this team, it's clear that you have an abundance of wide receiver talent. You go about 7, 8 deep of quality, at least wide receiver 2+ or wide receiver 3+ type of production on this team. So I think that's obviously your main strength. Obviously, the main weakness I would say here is at that quarterback 1 spot. You mentioned here Winston, a 2023 1 and 2 for Dak. I'm fine with going up and getting Dak for that price.
Yeah. I'm trying to think the going rate for Dak, not including another quarterback in return. What do you have to give up to get Prescott? 2 ones?
2 ones, I'd probably say is about appropriate. Yeah,
Yeah,
top
so
15 startup pick.
you add in Winston in a second. That kind of balances it out a little bit. You offload I would say a volatile quarterback 3-2 type. And even though I like Jameis Winston, there is definitely a world where he's no longer a starting quarterback after this year, after next year, whatever the case is. So you secure, like you said, a solid QB1 in a 10-team league. You definitely want to have those positional advantages.
Yep.
And having Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins are replacement level QB2, from a redraft perspective type of production. Maybe they have good years this year, but even if they do, their ceilings are capped at quarterback 8, quarterback 9 because they don't run. So at least with Prescott, you get a little bit more rushing upside, a higher passing ceiling as well. So I actually do like that trade. I think you're making out pretty decent and upgrading your team, as long as that first isn't expected to be early or anything.
For sure. And he also mentioned here, Winston and Evans for a projected mid. Honestly, I would look to just, get that quarterback advantage in this league. Get Dak Prescott. That's probably one of the cheaper prices that you will see for a guy that is probably a locked-in top 10 quarterback for the next 5 to 10 years. So I'm fine with going out, getting that staple, getting that header of your quarterback core here on this team. And he mentions here, do you think I can compete with this team? Honestly, things will have to break right because it is a 10-man league. I understand that in a 10-man, there's going to be some more dominant teams up top, but Najee Harris should be a locked and loaded top 5 running back this year. You got, Mike Evans going to be a top 10 wide receiver. Treylon Burks, Devontae Smith, Adam Thielen should all be good in redraft as well. Honestly, I would probably wait and see what this team's kind of looking at midseason. If you're a top 4 team in your league, go out, make a move, try to push for that championship. If, your team gets off to a slow start, you can adjust then. But going into the season, I would say that you're probably more so on the path to try to compete.
Yeah, I would say maybe securing another locked and loaded piece at wide receiver using some of your depth, or a locked and loaded piece at running back using some of your depth, would be potentially a smart move. So two guys that stand out to us, Antonio Gibson and Juju Smith-Schuster. If you could package both of those guys together and get a significant upgrade at running back or wide receiver, either one, if you could go trade both of those guys for, Javonte Williams, DeAndre Swift, something like that. Or if you wanted to just do it at wide receiver, go get DJ Moore, Deontay Johnson, DK Metcalf, somebody in that territory, AJ Brown. I think that both of those moves kind of make sense. I would be looking to try and flip some of your depth into a stud if you can, especially in a 10-team league where, the starting roster is semi-deep, but it's not all that deep, and you have pretty good flex positions already. I think I'd be looking to secure one more outside of the quarterback trade that we talked about already, difference maker at either running back or wide receiver, using some of your because you have a lot of wide receiver 2 types and RB2 types outside of, I think, Harris and Montgomery. If you had to trade Gibson and Juju away for a up tier at wide receiver, I think you're just fine getting by with Harris and Montgomery, locking down your running back slots with Hunt and Algier, potentially mixing in on bye weeks and stuff.
Yeah, and I think Hunt and Algier are like a very nice, fragile type of build to have a running back depth. Because I do think, again, if Hunt is healthy, he's shown that he is a top 20 fantasy running back. Yeah, is he a little bit more volatile on a week-to-week basis? Sure, but Kareem Hunt has a role in that high-powered Cleveland offense, and his opportunity cost compared to his production, because people like avoiding variance in drafts is appealing to you, because you get that RB3. You move up, as you mentioned, with Gibson, Juju, get an elite receiver. I agree with that move. I think that this team can definitely make some noise in your league.
Yeah, so that's basically our thoughts on that one. Hopefully that helped you out.
Yep.
Ethan's question, the next question that we have here, it is basically he's in the middle of a startup, and I thought it was a good question, so I wanted to cover it in this. He is also a member of the Patreon. He's about to do a startup right now, a few weeks from now. It is a 12-team Superflex, 1.5 tight end premium in a full PPR league. He's a bit conflicted on where to go at 107. So the general strategy that he wants to execute is tank for Bijan approach year one. Now, number one, I will say, don't be married to that strategy. So the video I did yesterday, you want to be fluid in your draft. You want to be flexible, and you want to approach your draft. Maybe you have an inkling that tanking is a good idea because you know the players in your league.
Know your market.
You know they're going to be redraft centric or something like that. That's fair, but make sure you go into the draft as fluid as possible, knowing that if the opportunity presents itself to compete, you can pivot to that at some point in time. So with that 107, he's curious, what direction he should go. Should he go with Watson, who is his highest rated quarterback? Should he go with Kyle Pitts, given the tight end premium format that it is? And he also wants to try and accumulate as many 2023 firsts as possible as he can during the startup, and basically draft functionally no running backs unless it's possibly like Breece Hall at the 206 that falls there. So he's looking basically to punt year one. Again, I would caution you to say that you don't necessarily want to be married to that strategy early, but going, early on at, a quarterback at 107, wide receiver puts you in that flexible mindset to the point that you could compete if you need to. So where are you at with the 107 and how to handle kind of the rest of the situation?
Well, he mentions the two main pieces that he's kind of, eyeing right now are either Deshaun Watson, who he mentions as his highest rated quarterback, or Kyle Pitts, given the tight end premium format. He does say here, am I even valid to have Watson over Lamar or Kyle in this situation? I personally would just take Lamar 107, thank my league mates for giving me that value, and run to the podium with the pick. But if you have Watson ranked over Lamar and ranked over Kyler, take your best player. Because again, Pitts and Watson's an argument for me because of the situation with Watson potentially with the suspension. But if he's your highest rated quarterback, you already put yourself out there. You already said, this is my next quarterback. I would just take Watson. If that's your guy, I would just take Watson. Again, you're not going to get, crazy value to move down, get Watson later. Nobody's going to give you, a 2023 first to move down from 107 to 110. Just take him there.
Yeah, I would also say potentially explore moving up from 206. If you're, again, you don't want to pigeonhole yourself right away, but if you really love Pitts and Watson and you can get it done for a reasonable price and secure both guys, then yeah, you'd probably be well on your way to a solid rebuild having both of those guys there. And I will say on Watson over Kyler and Lamar, I think Deshaun Watson's a better quarterback than both of those guys. That's not outrageous. Yes, we're talking fantasy football and those other guys run more than Watson, but Watson still gives you something on the ground as well. But I do agree. I think Watson's just a better quarterback than both of those guys. I don't think it's outrageous to have those guys. The way I would handle the 107, if Watson's your highest rated quarterback, well, first of all, I would take Lamar if he was there at 107. But if Watson's your highest rated quarterback, then I would just go with Watson over Kyle Pitts, even in the tight end premium format, because especially if you have an inkling that rebuilding would be the smart move, the quarterback position is more important than the tight end position, even though Kyle Pitts is so valuable in a tight end premium.
Yep. No, I agree with you there. Just take the quarterback, and again, you can reevaluate whether you want to move up at that 206 or, a guy like Brees Hall or a win now, like running back, win now receiver, tight end, like Mark Andrews, whatever is available at that 206, and somebody's willing to give you a 2023 first to move down from like the 206 to like the fourth round area. You can entertain that. Overall, taking that quarterback early gives you a lot more flexibility, gives you a lot more fluidity in the rest of your draft. So I personally would go with your top ranked quarterback. Again, for me, that would be Lamar Jackson. But if you have Deshaun Watson, if you already, made your claim, staked your claim that Deshaun Watson you would rather have than Lamar and Kyler, go get your guy. So I agree with that. We can move on to the next team. That's going to be from TBBucs. Again, another patron. You guys can see it here. Quarterback room headlined by Justin Fields, Ryan Tannehill, and Kenny Pickett. Running backs, you got Darrell Henderson, James White, Boston Scott, and Eno Benjamin. Wide receivers, you got Chris Godwin, Elijah Moore, Drake London, Treylon Burks, Sky Moore, and et cetera there. And at tight end, you have Dallas Goedert head in that group, along with 6 2023 ones, 2 2023 twos, and his 2023 threes. So overall, I'll let you take it away with this team. What was his main question here?
Yeah, so he said he didn't love his team, I guess, the way he had his team structured previously. So he tore it down, and we can kind of see the results of that. He has absolutely no running backs to speak of, which we love to see in an absolute teardown. So he basically, when he was looking to compete, he was like, I'm kind of stuck in the middle. And then he got an offer for Swift that decided to, make him really, flip the switch and go for more of a rebuilding type of offer or type of mold. He traded away DeAndre Swift, Calvin Ridley, and a 2023 second. And in exchange for that move, he got the 104, which ended up being Treylon Burks, and 2 2023 firsts. And he smashed this trade. He was like, I accepted this instantly. And he started to blow the team up. So after that, he traded. It looks like Danny agrees with the trade.
Oh,
so
yeah.
after that, he traded away Deebo Samuel, Kirk Cousins, and Odell Beckham Jr., all guys that would help him compete, for Zach Wilson and Elijah Moore. So nice stack there, and a 2023 first. So I would say, what is Deebo's value relative to Elijah Moore? Is Elijah Moore in 2023 first I would rather have than Deebo Samuel?
In a heartbeat, I would say.
And I would rather have Zach Wilson than the rest of the package.
Maybe Elijah in a 2023 second, but I would probably rather Elijah at that point. I don't know. It's like a second is probably about fair.
I'd probably need a 2 and a 3. I'd probably need a 2 and a 3 for Deebo. I'm a little higher on Deebo, I think, than you are.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, he's your 6, right?
Yeah, he's my wide receiver 6, I believe.
Okay, so that makes sense. He's more so, I believe, my 10 or 11, so it makes sense there. But either way, I mean, that is a phenomenal deal. And you guys saw me smirking. You guys saw me, smiling when you mentioned that first deal. So I'm assuming this guy. I mean, realistically, I'd rather have 2 2023 ones than DeAndre Swift. I'll tell you that right now. Assuming those are random 2023 first, I would rather that than DeAndre Swift. So the fact that you basically, hypothetically, those even out, you flipped Calvin Ridley and a 2023 second into Treylon Burks. Like Treylon, like as much as I love Calvin Ridley, like the next time he plays football, he's going to be a 28-year-old receiver that pigeonholes you into a win now. Treylon Burks is a 21-year-old receiver that, when it's all said and done, from a projectable ceiling standpoint, could be regarded as a top 7 dynasty receiver by this time next year.
Yeah, exactly. If he has a great season, the opportunity's in front of him, and we know that he has the ability to produce from what we saw in college, it's definitely possible that he has, Jalen Waddle-like ascension from last year. So the next couple trades here, a couple more teardown type of moves. A.J. Brown for Sky Moore in a 2023 first. He said feels light to me looking back, but getting that sixth first basically and locking down half the first round was way too appealing for him. I mean, you got essentially 2 first-round picks for A.J. Brown, because Sky Moore is about a mid-first-round pick. So I think that's appropriate value. I don't think you got too little in that trade. Maybe it feels a little light looking back because you feel like you could have gotten more. But I sold A.J. Brown for 2 ones in one of the leagues that I tore down as well. And I thought I got appropriate value for A.J. Brown. And that was when he was still in Tennessee, too. So I don't know if you did this after. I'm assuming you did this after the draft if you got Sky Moore straight up. So I would say that this is probably a solid trade. And then he also traded away, it looks like, Zach Wilson, Rashad Penny, a 2023 fourth, for another 2023 first, a 2023 second, and KJ Osborne. Now, I personally would have kept Zach Wilson.
And I get it too. I probably would slightly lean from a even standpoint, the Zach Wilson side contextually. But given the fact that you've committed to the tank, given the fact that you committed to this team structure, as much as I love Zach Wilson, there is still some volatility there. There still could be the case where, he goes out next year and he has a bad year despite the weapons and he's in maybe Sam Darnold territory. Again, I don't think that's going to happen, but that's still in the range of outcomes. At least, because you're not competing, because you're not trying to score points this year, you're trying to tank and you're trying to gain that extra value on those picks you have next year. I don't mind kind of eliminating that risk. Again, I probably would have wanted a little bit more because I am pretty bullish on the ceiling of a guy like Zach Wilson. I think he could be, a top 25 type of startup pick if things break right next year. But there is still some risk there. You eliminate the risk here. You get that 1, you get that 2. And I mean, KJ Osborne's a throw-in, but he's a nice throw-in, honestly. Like he could have a potential ceiling. Adam Thielen has shown volatility. Adam Thielen has shown the inability to stay on the field. And KJ Osborne, in limited opportunity last year, did show an ability that he's actually good at football. So he could end up being worth, a second next year if things break right. If Thielen gets hurt and, he has a 950-yard breakout type of season. So.
Yeah, I would say I just wouldn't have traded Wilson away just because I think that he has a Joe Burrow-like ascension in his range of outcomes. Not necessarily they go to the Super Bowl, but just, the step that we saw from Joe Burrow this year is definitely possible for Zach Wilson. And I actually would have traded Fields away if you were looking to trade away one of those quarterbacks because I think it's more likely that the Sam Darnold outcome happens to Justin Fields. That's a hot take. I'm probably going to get flamed for it in the comments, but that I probably would have held on to Zach Wilson. I think he's the perfect quarterback to have in a rebuild.
And it's funny because, I mean, if this was 2023 first, I think you and I would.
Oh, I would take 2 1s for him for sure.
Like, you would easily smash.
I just think this is probably a fair trade, and because I'm higher on Zach Wilson than consensus, then I lean Zach Wilson.
What if there was like an extra 2023 second attached to this? What would your thoughts be?
It leans me a little bit more to that side, I would say. But I value Zach Wilson about 2 firsts.
Damn, 2023.
And we're actually, for those of you guys that are members of the Patreon, I've thought of this. Haven't even run this by you yet. We might come up with like a matrix in our rankings that says how we value certain players relative to rookie draft picks and, the type of package we would need to move off of, like Josh Allen, for example, be like 4 first-round picks.
Yeah, plus.
Yeah, legitimately. Okay, so side note, I think you're in, TBBucs. It looks like you're in a great position. Chris Godwin is going to be hard to sell. Speaking from personal experience, somebody who's trying to tear down a team and sell Chris Godwin, he is still on my team. I can't do it. I don't know why. Nobody wants to give me anything of value for him. I can't even get a lone singular 2023 first for the guy. So, I would say just you're going to have to hold Godwin most likely until he's back on the field and producing because people will remember at that point in time that this is still a 26-year-old wide receiver. I don't even know if he's 26 yet. That can produce at a very, very high level.
Yeah, no, he's a funny case because he's relative. Okay, so he's a win now player in the eyes of many, but he's still got some youth to his side to the point where his value is not going to fall off a cliff. People are worried about that ACL. People are worried about his recovery, but realistically, as soon as he gets back on the field, like he's a top, at worst, 15 to 20 receiver at worst.
The way I view Chris Godwin is the hierarchy of Deebo Samuel, A.J. Brown, and Chris Godwin. They're all the same player. They're all the exact same play style. They're used a little bit differently depending on what team they play for, but they're big, bully, yards after catch wide receivers, and they all deal with injuries, and whoever's dealing with injuries at certain points in time has the lower value. So they should be treated pretty similarly, in my opinion. Godwin's a little he's the same age as Deebo, I'm pretty sure. Like they're relatively the same age.
Yeah, I mean, like, is it? And again, I'm glad you mentioned that because I mean, there's a possibility where Godwin goes out. He's not going to put up 1,400 yards because he's going to miss a few games, but he'll be on like a 1,400-yard pace, and people might throw him up back into like the top 10 dynasty receivers because they're like, "What the fuck are we doing? Like, this is
Deebo Samuel is older than Chris Godwin. He's actually older than him."
Yeah, no, that's jokes. But either way, just talking about this team quickly, this looks like a me team, genuinely, other than Kenny Pickett. Like, this looks like a team that I would craft. I love the liquidity. I love the flexibility that you have with this team. By 2023, I mean 2023, 2024, because you maybe give your rookies a year to kind of, show themselves. This team is going to be dominant. This team's going to be absolutely running circles around your league. I mean, the fact that you have 5 stud wide receivers already with this build, in addition to those first next year, like you are going to be in a very, very nice spot. So either way, we can move on to the next team. Another patron that's going to be from Jeff. Again, a 1 quarterback league here. I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, so he has, questionable quarterbacks, obviously. Mac Jones, Daniel Jones, Marcus Mariota, etc. Not great at running back either. Carter, Stevenson, Henderson, A.J. Brown, T. Higgins, Michael Pittman Jr., Gabriel Davis, mainly at wide receiver, though, and Kyle Pitts to build around. Has the 101 this year. Has 2 firsts in 2023, 2 seconds in 2023, and then most of his picks in future years as well. So he has his rookie draft coming up, and he was basically he outlined what his game plan is and what he's looking to be targeting with most of his picks. He just kind of wanted our thoughts on it and basically how he thinks his team is going to shake out this year. So based on his team, his pick targets are at 101. He's going to go Breece Hall, right? Pretty straightforward. At 210, he's hoping for either Isaiah Spiller or Tyler Algier to help fill out a bit of his running back core there. And then at 4-3, 5-3, he's just looking for some value to fall to him, maybe Dulcich, Jelani Woods, Tyquan Thornton, guys like that. And then Jerome Ford, Justin Ross, Calvin Austin, whatever at 5-3. Again, once you get to the 4th and 5th round, pick whoever you want. But he says, I think my team can compete this year if things break right. I would caution you to say that you'd have to have a lot break right, because you don't have a difference making quarterback at all, right? Like your quarterback production is going to be 15, 18 points a game, relatively speaking. Even if Mac Jones or Daniel Jones has like a solid year, I'm probably not banking on high-end quarterback production. You're putting a lot of faith into Breece Hall to carry you as a rookie running back when Carter's still going to probably be involved at least early on in the season. And unless you get an injury to Cam Akers or Damian Harris or something, or Javonte Williams, those like handcuff RB2 types are probably not going to be, huge difference makers for you either. Your wide receivers would really, really, really have to carry you, and Kyle Pitts. So it's possible. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that you can compete with this team. I just don't think that I would bank on it necessarily.
No, I agree with you. And he also mentions here Bijan is so tempting. Imagine being able to roll out, Breece Hall and Bijan Robinson next year. That's gonna be a pipe dream. That's gonna be fun. But I agree with you there. A lot would have to break right. And he mentions I've been toying with the idea of tanking. The only if you want it, like Rondale Moore has a couple games, you can sell him. Guys like that, maybe. There's not many guys your wide receiver core. I'm not really looking to sell, Brown, Higgins, Pittman, because I do think once you add those first round picks in next year, you can compete with this team. You just need, again, as Corey mentioned, one difference making quarterback and a couple running backs added to Breece Hall. But I mean, once you get that, I mean, you're rolling out a starting lineup of, a top 10 type of quarterback, hypothetically, if you can get that. Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson / Jahmyr Gibbs, et cetera there. And then at wide receiver, I mean, you are very, very in a good spot here with, Brown, Higgins, Pittman. I think Gabe Davis could be a solid, wide receiver 4-5 type for you, and et cetera there. And then you have the holy grail of tight ends there with Kyle Pitts. So I do think, as Corey said, I would look to dominate this league in 2023. So I agree with that.
Yeah, I would say wait and see too, because if you're 6-2 or something like that, and you can flip Rondale Moore in a second for Tom Brady and try and make a push at that point, then by all means maybe do something like that. But that's like a wait and see type of thing to see how your team is performing early on in the season. Because if Breece Hall is a top 10 running back from the jump, like he's just immediately the go-to guy, then you probably could compete with this team. You have replaceable RB2 production that you can kind of cycle in. Your wide receivers and tight ends should be able to carry you, but you will probably need a quarterback upgrade midseason if you were to determine that you can compete in this league.
No, I agree with you there. Any other closing thoughts here, or should we move on to Dylan's team?
The one last thing I will say is because it is a one quarterback league, I would try and invest in a upside guy if you can. So if you had to package like Gabriel Davis and Rondale Moore to go get like Jalen Hurts or something like that, I would probably try and do that. Maybe sacrifice a little bit of depth at wide receiver to go secure a quarterback long term that's going to be a difference making, like Konami code quarterback. I might consider doing something like that as well.
I'd agree with that. So we can move on to Dylan's team here. Another patron. He says here that this is a one quarterback, 1.5 tight end premium in his 10-man league. So he's got that difference making quarterback. You got Lamar Jackson really heading that group.
This is such a neat quarterback core right now. These are like my three dudes. Lamar Jackson, Ryan Tannehill, and Jameis Winston. This is exactly how I like building out quarterback cores. You get one stud and two guys that you can cycle into your quarterback 2 spot. Is always how I love.
To be fair, this is a one quarterback league.
Okay, fair enough. If it was a super league, this would be exactly how I would structure it. But Breece Hall, Cam Akers, mainly at running back, DK, Drake London, Deontay Johnson, Sky Moore, Jahan Dotson, great, core wide receivers there with Wandell at the end. Hawkinson and Pat Freiermuth as his top tight ends. He also has 4 1s and 4 2s next year, and then all of his picks in future drafts. So he's basically wondering what he should do with this team. Feels like he can compete, but there's also some very strong rosters in his league. And it is a 10-team league too. So teams are probably going to be very good. Basically, what should he do? And then we'll go over some of his trades and how he did in his rookie draft as well.
Honestly, this is a house money year looking at this team. I mean, let's talk about the trades first, because I mean, Herbert, Christian Watson, Saquon, Keenan, whatever. You got Dak, Brees Hall, and DK. Give me Dak, Brees Hall, and DK anytime there. I mean, this is a 10-man league. You want superstar ability. Yeah, Herbert's a more secure, more valuable asset than Dak. Agreed. But in a one quarterback league, you already have Lamar Jackson. I'm fine with making this move. Go ahead, get it done. Brees Hall, top 5 running back for both of us in Dynasty. I mean, he actually might be your 6. I forget off my head.
He's
And
6.
DK, and DK is a locked and loaded top 10 receiver. So I'm fine with getting that value at the more important positions in a one quarterback league with Dak and Brees Hall. With Brees Hall and DK. So love that. You also gave initially CMC, and you got Saquon Barkley and Drake London. So round of applause there, because I mean, this is the perfect way to turn an asset like CMC into value, into depth. Drake London's a top 15 receiver for both of us. I believe he's actually my wide receiver 10. So I love Drake London, and getting, Saquon Barkley. If Saquon Barkley is healthy, like, he is one of the few running backs that has a maybe not a ceiling of CMC, because CMC ceiling is literally like generational, better than anybody else in fantasy football, period. But Saquon Barkley at his ceiling is legitimately a 22 plus point per game scorer.
Right, and you shave, a year and a half, 2 years of age off of
Yeah.
CMC and some touches off the workload as well. And I'm starting to see a lot of steam of fantasy doctors that I follow. The second year off the ACL narrative is a real thing. Like, I'm starting to see a lot of people be like, guys, Saquon's going too low. We should have been out on him last year. We all fucked up, but we're going to get a discount this year, and it's going to work out beautifully. Saquon draws me in every single year, and I swear to God, he's going to do it again this year. I'm going to be way higher on him than consensus, and he's probably going to break my heart again. But it does have an upgraded offensive line, offense around him. I say it again every year. Best offensive line he's ever played with, best, weapons core around him that he's ever played with, and then he ends up getting injured. So
for me, it's simple with Saquon. When he is healthy, he's one of the few actual workhorse bell cow type of 350 plus opportunity running backs in the league. And he doesn't have like Najee Harris efficiency. He's actually an efficient running back. So you're getting that. You're getting receiving output. You're getting potentially
breakaway plays that he's going to give you 7-8 times a year too.
Yeah, like it's funny because I mean, we're talking about elite ceiling, and everybody's fallback on Saquon is fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on you. I'm not touching you again. Yada yada yada. It's like, yeah, okay, but I mean, if you're getting him at what RB 15-ish type of prices, I'm fine with getting burnt again. Like,
yeah, exactly. And you can secure you don't have to take him top 5 like you had to take him last year. Anyway,
exactly.
Saquon ran aside. Your rookie draft, I think you did a great job. 104, Drake London. That's great value. He's definitely not the 104 in a one quarterback league for me. Sky Moore, 108, another good value there. Christian Watson and Jahan Dotson. I mean, you had back-to-back picks, so it doesn't really matter what order you pick those guys in. And then 205, Wan'Dale Robinson, I think is also pretty solid value as well. I think you got, like Danny said, you got a pretty well set up situation here, house money type of year. You have a young, rookie running back leading your core, and some young receivers as well. This time next year, you should have one of the better teams in your league. Once Brees is the full established workhorse, hopefully Cam Akers is 100% healthy at that point. You also have 4 ones next year that you could potentially add to that running back core, and then your receiving core should be fully developed. A lot of those guys into their primes already. And if Sky Moore and Drake London hit, man, your receiver core is going to be nasty.
Yep. No, I fully agree with you. So we could move on to the next team here. I'll let you take it away with Justin Hall's team. Yet again, another patron.
Yeah, and Justin Hall, thankfully, you're not the defenseman for the Maple Leafs, because I probably wouldn't have answered your question if you were, because I hate Justin Hall from the Maple Leafs. But all right, so you guys can see Justin Hall's team here. Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers, Mitchell Trubisky. He didn't actually specify if this was a Superflex league, but I mean, if it is, that's a little bit of a shaky quarterback core. Chase Edmonds, Derek Gore, nothing really to speak of at running back. He does have some guys on his taxi squad like Tyler Algier and some guys like that. At wide receiver, again, he lists a lot of the wide receivers that don't really matter for his team, but most of the ones that do matter are on his taxi squad: Drake London, Jahan Dotson, Khalil Shakir, guys like that, to go along with Hunter Renfrow and some other guys. And then at tight end, he doesn't, again, have a whole lot to speak of. A lot of guys on his taxi squad as well. So this is pretty clearly, one of the teams that is in pretty rough shape, I would say. He's basically looking to get some help with his team. It's a 2 quarterback league. So he did actually tell me it's a 2 quarterback league with also some IDP players. He recently completed a couple trades that are included here. Should he make more trades for vet players or just stack up draft picks to make a better run next year? So I would say that you cannot compete with this team. There's no way I can compete with a team with the running back core the way that, like, your best running back is Tyler Algier. Like, you're in pretty rough shape there. And then at wide receiver, while you have some young guys that I like, you can't really necessarily rely on those guys and not a lot of difference makers after them. So this is a full tear down, rebuild the shit out of this team. Aaron Rodgers and Derek Carr are on the market. I'm getting rid of those guys immediately. They're older quarterbacks, and it's a 2 QB league, so you should be able to fetch some good draft capital for those guys as well.
Yeah, and he has a couple trades listed here. I don't mind the second deal, but I don't like the first deal at all. I'm going to keep it honest with you. I don't like it at all. He says before the rookie draft, so I mean, I guess, but yeah, like I would rather Bateman than all those other pieces combined. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how valuable is Budda Baker is in an IDP league. I'm sure he's pretty valuable, but Rashad Bateman, again, we can only kind of focus on the offensive pieces here. Rashad Bateman it clears these guys pretty easily, and the 203 honestly might clear these guys too.
Yeah, it's tough there. I mean, I can't speak on the defensive talent here. It looks like you have some talented players, but from an offensive standpoint, I mean, this is like a full like tear down. Like this is a full like rebuild. Put your ass on the line, like 2025.
Yeah, like I'm looking for 2023s and 2024s. Like that's what I'm looking for. I'm not married to any player on this roster. Anybody is on the block. Everybody, you got to package 4 of these players together to get a first round pick to help your team in the future. Yeah. If you got to take, Algier, Kendrick Bourne, Mike Gesicki and Chase Edmonds and throw them all in a deal just to secure a 2024 first, I'm doing it. I'm looking to collect as much draft capital as humanly possible with this team.
2025 even, honestly.
Yeah, if your league allows you to trade that far into the future, I'm definitely looking to do something like that. So I would say to answer your initial question, you cannot compete with this team.
Not at all, yeah.
I would say it's probably wise to assume that you can't compete with this team, and Aaron Rodgers and Derek Carr are the first guys to go because they have the most value. It's a 2-quarterback league. I would say as of now, they're probably your best 2 players too, outside of the young receivers that you have. And they should be able to fetch you. If you can secure a stud in a trade like that, if you can secure like a stud young wide receiver to build around. If not, I would just look for pure draft capital.
No, I agree with you there. I would look to tear down any type of value, Let's just say, look at this team. I mean, Allen Lazard gets out to a hot start. I'm fine with flipping him for a future second, whether that's 2023, 2024, whenever it's allowed. I'm taking the value. Anytime a player on your team is coming off a couple good weeks, I am shipping them for draft capital.
Yeah, your goal is to dominate the next couple drafts as much as you possibly can, because outside of Drake London and Jahan Dotson, really, there's nobody building around this team for the long term. So definitely a tough situation to be in. Again, we can't really speak on the defensive players. Maybe there's more building blocks there, but I would say that you're probably in a big time rebuild here. And the defensive players, any cornerstone pieces that you have, would also be on the block for me as well.
Agreed. But either way, before we get into the next team, as Corey always says, we got to pay some bills over here. You guys should be hearing a word from our sponsors over at Manscaped right now. Hey lads, today's episode is brought to you by our sponsors over at Manscaped, the leaders in male grooming across the globe. With summer just around the corner, our sponsors over at Manscaped are here with the best tools to get you ready for the warm weather and good times. Everyone wants an active summer. Manscaped provides men with the cleanest and most concise trimming experience available on the market. The summer is coming by quickly. Did you shore up your grooming routine with the best tools for the job? The Performance Package 4.0 from Manscaped is just the thing every guy needs in their life to make each and every day just a little more special. The number one product in this package is the Lawnmower 4.0. This electric trimmer is designed to trim hair on loose skin. And get this, the trimmer's advanced skin-safe technology reduces cuts and nicks on your body. It even has a 4000K LED spotlight so you can shave in the dark. Did I mention that it's also waterproof? This package also includes the Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer to whack all of the worst of your weeds. The Weed Whacker is also waterproof and uses a 9,000 RPM motor-powered 360-degree rotary dual blade system. This nose and ear hair trimmer provides proprietary skin-safe technology, which helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate holes of yours. In addition to your Performance Package 4.0, Manscaped is proud to announce the official launch of the Boxer 2.0, the optimal protector of your family jewels. Let your bulge breathe with the comfiest boxers on the market. This summer, it's time to join 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming, with our exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com and use promo code BUSH for 20% off plus free shipping. Again, 20% off plus free shipping with the code BUSH at checkout. Manscaped gives your manhood the proper treatment it deserves. We appreciate the support for the Fantasy Stock Exchange over by our friends at Manscaped and thank them for sponsoring today's video. And speaking of that video, let's get right back to it. All right, huge shout out to Manscaped for sponsoring today's video. Again, go use our code BUSH at checkout on Manscaped. A ton of good deals over there, 20% off plus free shipping. You guys would have heard that in the little video. Let's get on to the next team. That's going to be from Tyler Reed. And I'll just take it away here. So he does say that this is a one quarterback league with 3 wide receivers and 1 flex spot. He mentions that his main quarterback, his starter here is Trey Lance. Zach Wilson, Carson Wentz, and Sam Darnold finishing out that core. Running backs, you got J.K. Dobbins, Antonio Gibson, Kenneth Walker, Rashad White, etc. there. Wide receiver, T. Higgins, Amon St. Brown, Christian Kirk, George Pickens, Jahan Dotson, etc. there. And that tight end, you got Pat Freiermuth and Dylan Parham, Donald Parham heading that group. So overall, what are your thoughts on this team? And then we can get into his questions.
Yeah, the team looks, solid, I would say. It doesn't look like a huge, powerhouse or anything like that, but I think he did well with his rookie picks, Kenneth Walker, George Pickens, Jahan Dotson, Rashad White, guys that, should be able to help you fill out your core a little bit. But I would say this team is a little thin as far as high-end talent is concerned. You have a lot of, mid RB2 types, wide receiver 2 types, but T. Higgins and Trey Lance and maybe Pat Freiermuth at tight end are really the only difference makers that I see on this roster. So a little bit of work to do. I would say you have, a good solid foundation for the time being, but I'm looking to acquire some studs if I can.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, looking at this team, your clear main strength here would be, I would say, at that running back position. You got J.K. Dobbins, Antonio Gibson, Kenneth Walker, Rashad White. I think that's a solid core, but not a core that you're going to win with this year. You kind of mentioned thoughts on, buying an asset to try to compete. I would just try to, build around those 2 first next year, add to this core, keep getting younger, and potentially, I mean, I think this is going to be a team that really dominates, 2023, 2024. But right now, this is not a team I'm looking to go all in with.
Yeah, I would like your whole team is like 23 years old and under. Like your oldest
Yeah.
player that's like relevant for your team is like Antonio Gibson. Like legitimately, you don't have a lot of older players. Dobbins and Gibson being in their 3rd seasons with Higgins and stuff. Like they're your veterans for your at least your competable assets. So I would continue to get younger, like kind of what Danny said. He also has highlighted who his current taxi squad players are. His thoughts on guys to drop as well. Who are the best, droppable pieces. He has a couple
5 to 6.
guys highlighted. I guess there's 6 of them that he needs to drop. But the guys that you have highlighted seem kind of fine to me. Justin Jackson, Ty Johnson, Denzel Mims, Tyler Johnson, and Dez Fitzpatrick and Sam Darnold. I'm fine dropping all of those guys.
Yep.
I don't mind dropping any of the other, lower end wide receivers like Amari Rodgers, Jalen Reagor, anybody like that.
Yeah, he mentions, 5 to 6 guys that he's been thinking about dropping. I'd probably agree with that list.
Jared
Maybe
Patterson and Larry Roundtree, I'm not married to either. You can drop those guys.
Darrington Evans. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I agree with that too. A lot of those guys, I mean, we're not going to be hard pressed on a decision to drop some guys because there's some fodder, which is what I like to refer it on this team.
Yeah. But you are set up, decently
100%,
well
yeah.
for the future. You got a young team with 2 firsts next year, 2 seconds next year. As we're kind of going to talk about, I guess, going forward now, Antonio Gibson would be a guy that I would gauge his value around your league. If you can secure a 2023 first for him, I would be fine doing that because you're not looking to compete this year. I would not, make the mistake of trying to go all in for sure, though. If that's what you were thinking of doing, I would wait and see with this team. Most likely you're not going to be relatively that competitive this year, and you're just letting your young guys develop. If anybody's having a breakout season, you can kind of gauge their market and potentially move them for more draft capital to help you really, really build out this team because you are lacking some, stud factor on this team outside of really T. Higgins and maybe Trey Lance.
Yeah, no, I agree with that here. But overall, I think this is a team in a relatively solid position. I would say keep adding to that wide receiver core because I mean you are a little bit. I would want at least like one more like top 20 wide receiver asset on this team because I mean you got some good wide receiver 3-4 types in Dynasty, but outside of T Higgins, I mean I like Monra. He's top 24 wide receiver for me. I think he's fine. But if you had another Devontae Smith or Elijah Moore or someone like that to this core, I would have felt more comfortable. But I mean, you got the draft capital to be able to add to it next year.
Yeah, and you got Pickens and Dotson that you added in this draft. That should help you fill out that core as well. So pretty solid position, like you said. Let's move on to Hunter's team here. 10 team, super flex, PPR. I'll let you take it away.
For sure. So he actually outlines here, big shout out. He said he did it last year, and with y'all's advice, I won the championship in my first year. So shout out. Appreciate that. Appreciate that support. And Happy we were able to get you that championship. But he outlines the team here. He says it's a 10-team Superflex PPR with 3 wide receiver spots and 2 flex spots. So you guys can see the team on the screen here. Quarterbacks, you got Josh Allen, Trey Lance as the main 2 guys there. Winston, a very, very nice quarterback 3 to have with this team. Running backs, Najee, Antonio Gibson, Leonard Fournette, Kareem Hunt, etc. there. Wide receiver, Terry McLaurin, Sky Moore, Deontay Johnson, Devontae Smith, Elijah Moore, and others there. And at tight end, you got that Noah Fantastic heading that group. Also have, Pat Fryermuth kind of buried down there, along with 2 2023 firsts and all of his picks in 2024. So he has some of his questions here. But before we get into the questions, what are your thoughts on this team when you're looking at it at base value?
Well, I said in the how to contend video yesterday that the ideal position to be in a dynasty league is to have a competitive team and also have all of your future draft capital and potentially more than your own future draft capital, which is the position that Hunter's in right now. He has 2 firsts next year, all of his picks in the future. So he was able to build a competitive team, win the championship, and still have a farm system to help replenish his team as players get older and, start to fall off and stuff. So I would say that you're in the ideal position that you want to be in a dynasty league right now. And he also says, should I look to go for it again, or should I look to go towards more of the future? I would say that this is
Run it back.
Not a lot of your team is going to like regress from last year outside of maybe like a player or 2 here or there. So I would say that you're probably good just running it back. If you wanted to make any trades, again, Antonio Gibson stands out. I think he's the guy that you can gauge the value of your league, but if many people are out on him, I'm fine just holding him on your roster. Most likely your RB2 this year is going to be Leonard Fournette. So Antonio Gibson as like a flex piece for you is fine.
I think. Yeah. And again, if you want to, make a splash, say Gibson, like to start the season, maybe, you're high on Mix and you think he can have a good year, you give up. I mean, the most I'd pay is probably like Gibson and a 2, considering that 2 is probably going to be late because you're going to compete. I'm fine with making that move to get, another running back for production here. Cause I mean, that's the only real thing after Najee and after Fournette. I mean, I like Hunt as a depth piece, but in a 2 flex league, you kind of want, a more stable, more steady type of option. I'm fine with going after a guy like Mixon, which is crazy because I don't advocate for Mixon. You don't advocate for Mixon. Maybe you also want to throw Saquon into that kind of group as well. A running back like that should have better year 1 production than Gibson is probably the transition I'd be looking to make. Yeah. So overall, I mean, go run it back with this team. This is a very, very well-built team. You have the upside, the youth factor, while still having a lot of point production here.
Yeah, he says also, what is one player you would drop? I'm sure you probably just drafted this guy, but I'd probably drop Jelani Woods would probably be the guy that I would drop. You have a pretty solid tight end core. There's no real reason for it. Maybe you want to drop one of the veteran tight ends.
Thomas.
Yeah, maybe. I think Logan Thomas could have more value this year than maybe Jelani Woods would. So I would probably just wait and see. Maybe you can flip Logan Thomas for like a 3 or a 4 midseason if he's actually doing something relative to your league, and maybe you can get something for him. I also would consider maybe Raheem Mostert as well. He might have a role in Miami, but I would rather drop Mostert than Edwards because Edwards has a clearer path to touches if Dobbins were to get injured, and I think I'd rather hold him in that case.
I agree. I mean, at that point in your running back core, you're just looking for projectable upside. And I don't think that Raheem Mostert has a lot of projectable upside given the timeshare that's expected in Miami. So
and his history and his age and all that kind of stuff too.
100%. He also lists here, I mean, kudos to this trade. He traded away Derrick Henry and Amon-Ra to get that liquidity. He actually dealt his first initially to win the championship this past year. Noticed, Derrick Henry is going to decline in value, 28-year-old running back coming off that ankle. And as much as I love Amon-Ra, he's still a slightly volatile piece to be holding. You're able to turn that into liquidity with 2 firsts, a second, and, most to throw him, but whatever. You got a little extra value, a little piece, a little pie there. But looking at this deal, give me 2 2023 first side any day.
Yeah, and given this kind of league dynamic in this league market, I have no doubt that you should be able to get it first for Antonio Gibson if you want to go for it. But or you could go after just again another like veteran running back or something like that. But yeah, kudos to you for and maybe those 2 firsts that he has, neither of them are his too. They might be early to mid or something like that. So we have no idea where those firsts are going to end up being. But I think you're well set up to run it back, potentially win again this year, and have a bright future as well. So great job.
Yep. No, I agree. So we can move on to the next team here, and that's going to be from Henry. So you guys can see the starters here: Deshaun Watson, Tom Brady, Trey Lance, and Baker Mayfield at the quarterback position. Running backs, you got Aaron Jones, Leonard Fournette, Kareem Hunt, etc. there. Wide receivers, A.J. Brown, T. Higgins, and Mike Evans. And at tight end, you have Noah Fant, along with 4 2023 firsts, and all of his picks in 2024 and 2025. So looking at this team, I mean, we'll get into the post-startup deals. I'll keep it honest with you. We just don't really have a lot of time to go through the like 15, 20 deals you have on the left there. But if you guys are looking at the screen, you guys can see the deals he made in the startup. But post-startup, I actually, we'll look at the couple of deals he made as well.
Yeah, so in the first deal, he received Leonard Fournette, T. Higgins, and a 2023 second in exchange for Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and Wan'Dale Robinson. So I'm trying to think. T. Higgins versus DJ Moore. Does Wan'Dale Robinson make up that difference for you, or is that not enough?
I would. It's probably relatively fair.
Fournette and Keenan Allen borderline cancel each other out for me because they're both win now type of pieces.
I was going to say maybe you do DJ Moore and Keenan for Higgins in the 2023 second.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
Right? Like that. I think that's probably more relatively fair. But I mean, I would probably personally rather the Higgins side regardless. But
yeah, however you slice it, I would say if you go Higgins versus DJ Moore and Wan'Dale, then it's Fournette in the second for Keenan Allen, which I'd rather have Fournette in the second. So yeah, really like that move for you. You get some win now pieces, win now running back production, and a young receiver to boot, as well as a 2023 second. So I think you did a great job there. Then you traded away that 2023 second using Courtland Sutton as well, and you upgrade to Mike Evans. So Courtland Sutton and Mike Evans this year, from a range of outcomes standpoint, I would definitely bet the farm that Mike Evans outscores him by a decent amount this year. It's possible that Sutton has a huge breakout season. We kind of talked about him in yesterday's video or 2 days ago's video about a great how good of a value he is relative to ADP right now. But Mike Evans will probably be a top 10 redraft receiver this year, especially if Godwin's going to be out for a number of weeks.
I agree with that too. I like the Evans side, especially given the stature, given the structure of this team. You're clearly trying to, make a push this year. I mean, you're making a push this year and still have 4 picks of liquidity to be able to be flexible. In season, you want to make a pickup. Say this team gets off to a 6-2 start. You have liquidity. You have flexibility to be able to make moves. And worst case scenario, guess what? If you get off to a slower start, you have pieces that you can sell. Aaron Jones to a contender. Aaron Jones should be, a top 15-ish running back this year, given off the fact that he should have a sustained receiving production in that Green Bay offense. So if somebody, I could see this happening in season. If somebody says, hey, listen, you give me Aaron Jones and a 2024 2, and I'll give you my 2023 first because I'm trying to compete this year. You take that, get a better piece than Aaron Jones for next year, run it back, host money, go win the championship in 2023 and 2024.
Yeah, same goes for Tom Brady too. Midseason, if he's obviously he's going to be great this year. I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to be a top 5 redraft quarterback for me probably. So, those two guys, and you're probably going to be in a good spot. You have pretty much all of the touchdown production for a offense that scored the most touchdowns in the league last year. You have Tom Brady, Leonard Fournette, and Mike Evans. So that's the touchdown production for that team, basically, unless you have Gronk also, but. That's basically going to be a big-time cornerstone for your team. Aaron Jones would be someone I would gauge his value on because I'm just not that high on Aaron Jones from both a redraft and a dynasty perspective, and I know you're even lower than me on Aaron Jones. So I would see what he can fetch on the open market. If you can transition Aaron Jones, let me just pull up my rankings right now. Guys that are kind of near him.
I would say Fournette plus, but I mean, Fournette.
Yeah, you already have Fournette on your team. You can't really do that. But if you can get James Conner plus for Aaron Jones, I wouldn't mind that. If you can get James Conner in like a 2024 first or something like that, based on some of the trades that you've made, I think that's definitely possible. You could potentially also go from Aaron Jones to David Montgomery or Josh Jacobs, I think might be also doable. And I would honestly straight up prefer both of those guys to Aaron Jones in redraft this year.
I was going to say Kareem Hunt plus, but you actually, I believe already have.
He's got all the pluses for all these down tiers, but having Fournette, James Conner, and Kareem Hunt as his running back core would just be a fucking hilarious, way to fade the running back position. But I think Aaron Jones to David Montgomery or to Josh Jacobs is probably doable 1-for-1 in your league, most likely.
No, I agree with that. I think that those are good transitions. I mean, looking at the starting lineup, you have a relatively good starting lineup. The only question mark there would be Devin Singletary because obviously, James Cook is going to limit his receiving ceiling, and you're banking on potentially the touchdown output. But as we know, Josh Allen has a lot of autonomy on the goal line for the Buffalo Bills. So that's the only questionable piece, as well as wide receiver depth. But again, you have 4 firsts next year. You're going to pound that wide receiver depth. You're going to pound, another starting running back with that elite class that's coming in. So overall, I think you've done a really good job there. And again, if you're watching at home, you can see the type of startup deals he made to kind of maneuver his way around the board. If you guys are curious in terms of how you can maybe attack a startup if you're getting into a startup league, these are some deals maybe you could look at.
Yeah, and I would say mid-season, like Danny kind of touched on already, I would gauge where you're at. If you're a 6-1 team or a 7-2 or something like that, or if you're vice versa, you're like losing, you got to make a decision for sure, because you can easily transition this into a quick retool if you need to. If let's say Jones and Fournette get hurt, and you have no running back position, and Watson is suspended 14 games or some shit, and you can't compete this year, and Lance isn't starting for the 49ers, like, you're probably going to have to flip over and turn that into a bit of a retool, but it should be a quick one because you got cornerstone pieces and draft capital already, and vice versa. If you get mid-season, you're 7-1, you have 2023 first. If you suffer an injury at the wide receiver position and you can buy low on, this time last year, T. Higgins had like 8 games with no touchdowns, and you could have probably gotten him for a singular first when at that point in time, and now he's worth multiple first. So if somebody's having a little bit of a touchdown drought, but they're still getting the targets, and of course we'll have you covered during the season on guys that are great trade targets, then I think you could also make a move like that using one of your 2023 first to help solidify your win now type of appeal if you're doing well at that point in the season.
For sure. So either way, well-built team, well-structured team. Well done there, Henry. We can move on to the next team here and the final team of the video. Currently wrapping out at about 50 minutes so far. If you guys made it this far and have enjoyed the content, as always, make sure you leave a like down below and comment Dynasty Decisions. Obviously a favorite series of you guys, a series that you guys show a lot of consistent support on. Comment Dynasty Decisions if you made it this far. Let's wrap it up with Gratafu's team. You guys see here the team here, a 12-team Dynasty League full PPR with 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 4 wide receiver spots, a tight end, and a flex. So the main team here, you guys can see Mahomes heading that 1 quarterback spot. Running backs, Fournette, Montgomery, Dillon, etc. there. Wide receivers, you got Keenan Allen, Hollywood Brown, Juju, Russell Gage, etc. there. And at tight end, you have Noah Fant. So he does also have all picks this year and all of his future picks. He basically just says, what players do you think I should be looking to trade away? Like, who are the players that kind of stick out like a sore thumb? And if you guys watch FSC, you're going to know the main name that Corey's going to mention right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, so I can't tell if you're alluding to Juju or Trevor Lawrence, but both of those guys would definitely stand out to me. So Trevor Lawrence, the reason I would potentially trade away Trevor Lawrence is, one, because you have Patrick Mahomes. So you're never going to actually use Trevor Lawrence in your lineup because Patrick Mahomes is going to be your locked and loaded every week starter quarterback 1. And at 108, because you have Patrick Mahomes, Sky Moore would be a big target for me. Get that stack of Mahomes and Sky Moore, but that's besides the point. Trevor Lawrence, if you can transition Trevor Lawrence into a different young quarterback, maybe it's Kenny Pickett, maybe it's Mac Jones, maybe it's Zach Wilson, whatever quarterback you like in that territory, and get a wide receiver on top of that, or get a first on top of that, or, whatever. It's a 1 quarterback league, so maybe you can't get that much value on top of it. But if you can transition Trevor Lawrence into Zach Wilson and Rashad Bateman, then, do it, obviously, because then you fill out your wide receiver core. It is a very deep wide receiver league, so you need that depth to fill out your roster. So that would be something I would look to do. If you can down tier as your second quarterback from Trevor Lawrence to a different young guy and get a wide receiver or even a running back potentially on top of that player, then I would that'd be a move that I'd be looking to make. So yeah, for example, Trevor Lawrence for Zach Wilson and Amon-Ra St. Brown or Rashad Bateman or somebody in that territory.
Yeah, no, I like that as well. Obviously, Juju's the other one that sticks out to us. His relative market value is higher than we're willing to pay. So, especially in a 4 wide receiver league, you can probably get a lot of liquidity for him. Maybe, push your luck. Maybe you can get a 2023 one for Juju, given the fact that this is a 4 wide receiver league, given the fact that you can target, a team that really thinks that they're going to be able to push a competing window. Even if you can't get a 2023, target 2024. I'm fine with making that type of move.
The way his team is built, though, is that it's set up to win now with the way that the assets that he has. This is just such an easy trade for me to make. Michael Thomas is currently valued lower than Juju Smith-Schuster.
That's a good one.
So if you can flip Juju into Thomas or into, maybe you got to add like your 208 or something to get up to Mike Evans or to get up to somebody in that territory, Allen Robinson maybe potentially as well.
I like it.
I would rather flip Juju into one of those guys because I just think they're going to be better this year. And you do have Mahomes, so it's possible that you want the stack there or whatever, but I personally just think Juju is overvalued. So if you can flip Juju into Michael Thomas 1 for 1, which apparently you can, according to Keep Trade Cut and some of the other sources, ADP that we have.
Yep. No, I like that as well. That's a perfect move. Michael Thomas, relative to his production, is very, very underrated. And as we've kind of alluded to, as we've kind of said in the past, that if we're not in a value accrual stage, you clearly want to win now. You clearly want to compete with this team, as Corey kind of said. You're looking for the cheapest, most efficient cost for production. Michael Thomas is currently I don't even know if he's a top 45 wide receiver given relative value.
He's barely. I think he's like 44.
Yeah, like people are scared about that injury, but as we know, man, in order to get ahead in this economy, in order to get ahead in the world, period, sometimes you have to take risk. If Michael Thomas plays this year, he is at worst a top 15 wide receiver.
And he could very easily be the best receiver on your team by week 3, like that quickly. As long as he's healthy and on the field, we're going to be like, oh yeah, right, this guy commands 11 targets a game. Like we will be quickly reminded why he was once the consensus, not even close Dynasty wide receiver 1 just 2 short years ago, even though he was like 25 when he was the Dynasty wide receiver 1. So that's definitely something I look out for. Brandon Cooks, Mike Evans, Allen Robinson, anybody like that, I would rather have over Juju straight up as well. So that's pretty straightforward, I think, for Gratafu's team. I think we should be able to wrap this video up. I think he's in a good position to potentially compete this year, but I would, like I said, see what you can get for Lawrence and Juju. If you guys enjoyed this video at any point, as Danny kind of alluded to, hit the like button, comment any of your thoughts down below. Please hit the subscribe button if you guys enjoyed. And if we know on the back end that like 65-70% of you guys aren't subscribed that are watching these videos. It doesn't cost you anything. Just hit the subscribe button. It really helps us grow and really helps us reach bigger audiences as well. So we definitely appreciate that. If you guys are interested in supporting us on Patreon, link is down below in the description. You'll get first priority responses to Dynasty decisions. You'll get, our Dynasty Rankings Manifesto. You'll get a number of different posts, databases, and all that kind of stuff. So that all is available in the link in the description. Twitter and Discord, you can get at us to be on future episodes of Dynasty Decisions, and we'll add you to the queue as well. Do you have anything else before we head out of here?
All I was going to say is that mentioning the queue, we have a lot of people in the back burner of this queue. There's a huge queue of people waiting to have their team analyzed. If you want to skip that queue, if you want to be first priority, first team discussed on Dynasty Decisions episodes, I mean, you guys have seen the last 15 or so episodes. Become a patron today. Skip that line. Get your team analyzed right off the bat. It's a win-win for both of us. Win-win for you. You guys get featured earlier. Win-win for us. Obviously, we get support from you guys. But either way, the last thing I'll say too, go support us over on Underdog Fantasy using promo code FSE at checkout. 100% match back on deposit up to $100. So, you put $100 in there, you get $200 to play with on your account and go win some $2 million. I mean, Best Ball Mania 3 is currently active. Winner of that gets $2 million. So $25 entry you can turn and flip into $2 million. Sounds like a heck of a deal to me.
Yeah, and even if you don't win the whole tournament, the regular season winner gets $1 million. And last year, Underdog actually told us this. The guy who had the most points in the regular season got bounced in the first round and ended up winning $20. So that's terrible. They decided to make some adjustments this year and make sure that the regular season winner is compensated fairly. So even if you don't win the end-all, be-all tournament that's completely variance dependent in the fantasy playoffs, then you can still win $1 million just for having the most points in the regular season as well. And like Danny said, promo code FSE at sign up and first deposit. Peace out, guys. We'll talk to you soon.